Welcome to the Startup Grind.
I'm delighted to be here. My name is Conor Murphy. I think the title of my talk is a bit out there. I wouldn't necessarily say we're starting a Silicon Valley company, but a company that still has the same ideals and ambition as a Silicon Valley company in Ireland. I think one of the reasons we can do that and we can do it with confidence is because of the ecosystem that has evolved in Ireland. I think particularly a lot of people probably heard over the last few years how Ireland and particularly Dublin has really emerged as one of the tech capitals of the world. So I'd be delighted to share my view on how that actually happened and how that's actually benefited us directly and some of the other cool things that are happening in that ecosystem that could be relevant to you guys in your own ecosystems. A little bit about myself and our company. So DataHug, what we do is we help solve who knows who. What we do is we do this automatically. Within your company, within your team, we could analyze all of the email communications, the calendars, the phone calls to work out the automatic social graph that exists within every company. So imagine you're sitting in your company today, you may want to figure out who knows Brad Feld, who can introduce you to Greylock, who knows that potential client. If anyone in your company has ever emailed, had meetings or interactions with this person, it'll show you who knows them, when they last spoke, the strength of the relationship, all automatically, all at your fingertips and in your workflow. As a company, we've raised just over $5 million, and including investors here from Silicon Valley, including Ron Conway and including DFJ as well, all while growing our company in Ireland to about 20 people. So our view in Ireland of Silicon Valley, and I think maybe a lot of your view, people outside America, is it's basically the Disney World of startups. It's the magical kingdom. It's this place where we all imagine you're going to land off the plane in SFO, the streets will be paved by gold, there's going to be VCs standing everywhere, handing out checks, and fairy tale stories around every corner about people who exited for $1 billion. Funny, it's exactly like that, exactly. And then you get to Disney World and there's big long queues, it's lines of 2-3 hours, everyone else had the same idea and they all arrived in Disney World that same day. And you realize there's a lot of competition in Disney World. But I had my own Disney World moment there. I was driving into the car park and I kind of had an out-of-body experience. This probably happens to everyone in Silicon Valley every day. But standing right in front of me as I was accelerating towards him was Steve Blank. And I was just amazed. Like, I know that guy. And it's like, he's almost in my bonnet. So I had to slam on the brakes. I didn't kill Steve. He's still here in the ecosystem. He'll still survive, I'm pretty sure. So that's our stereotypical view of Silicon Valley. We all know it's not exactly like that, but it is a magical place and nowhere else in the world can compete directly with Silicon Valley. So I just wanted to share what I think has happened in the Irish ecosystem and how it's evolved into, for the size of the country we have, 4.5 million people, to have an ecosystem that we have and the tech companies that we have, I think is pretty phenomenal. And I think it started, Brad Feld talks in his, he'll probably talk in his thesis, it takes up to 20 years to build that ecosystem. And back in the 90s, the Irish government, I think, made some really good strategic choices, and they continue to do so. And there's a very pro-business economy. So first thing they did is they brought in very low taxes. So you probably have all heard about that. Ireland's got 12.5% corporation tax, which is a big attraction to any corporation as they expand internationally. But one thing you might not know they did as well is they brought in free university education. I got my computer science degree for $0. My team got their electronic engineering and computer science and marketing degrees for $0. That gives an awful lot of flexibility. When you come out of college, you've got no debt, you can play around and mess around and focus on a startup with zero overhead on the back of your shoulders. Two other things, the government agencies, IDA Ireland and Enterprise Ireland did an awful lot of work. IDA Ireland's job, 250 people, their job is to travel the world, find the best tech companies and sell them on coming to Ireland. And Enterprise Ireland, 900 people dedicated to helping every one-person, two-person startup, what Brad Feld would describe as that feeder ecosystem of incubators, initial funding, training, and really building that community hub because there was no community there to start, and they helped foster that. And they started that in the 90s, and I think the benefits are really beginning to come through in Ireland today. I think the easiest way to show that is actually show a picture. This is downtown Dublin, basically, what they're beginning to call the Silicon Docklands. But in the end of the 90s, you see a lot of the big names, the big hot Silicon Valley companies came to Ireland. Definitely they came for the tax breaks, I think, at this stage, but also the talent pool as well was emerging as they're going through the universities for free. And I think Ireland has the biggest per capita university qualified graduates in Europe. I think 43, 44%. 60%? All right, so I wasn't good at maths in my part of the school. So it's growing bigger and faster. And These clusters are all within 2, 3, maybe 5 kilometers max of the city center. So they weren't exactly in the city center, but they started employing thousands of Irish people, and this skill system and ecosystem began to pop up. Very quickly then, as Brad Fell talks about, the leaders need to be entrepreneurs. So these Irish entrepreneurs begin to emerge, and companies like Paddy Power, which are now worth 3 billion, companies like Hostels.com that sold for 500 million. The founders of these companies are now the advisors, the chairmen, the angel investors that are beginning to feed that ecosystem in Dublin. Also, as well, a lot of incubators, and beginning to see seed funds and VC funds began to come in and spin out from these organizations. And then very quickly, in the last 3 years, what I call my kind of wave, my generation of companies, have really sprung up. And one of the key principles, I think, of an ecosystem is density. And literally, I look out my office window, and I see the guys here at Swerve. They've raised about $9 million, including Ron Conway as well. They were the guys who before invented Havoc, which is the 3D games engine, and Halo and all of these computer games everyone's playing. And you're beginning to see second generation, third generation entrepreneurs going at it again. And the great thing is also, this is so small, there's about 50 pubs along this road here, another 100 down this road, another 200 up here. So there's a lot of really good networking opportunities, whether you want to or not. And you get to mingle with the guys from Google, and you get to mingle with the guys from Profitero, which is a small startup, and you get to learn and you get to share. And that's, I think, one of the key things Silicon Valley has, accelerated learning and access to information, which is so important as well at the start. And now what's happening is the next wave of hot Silicon Valley companies are coming to Ireland. But I think the big difference is they're not coming like Google, which are located here, which now have 3,000 people. And interestingly, 60% of Google staff are foreign nationals. Ireland's a great place to live. They've come from all over the world to live in Ireland. But also, they're beginning to spin out, like Profitero. They just won IBM's Global Entrepreneur of the Year competition. They're from Belarus and Ukraine. They're great guys, amazing entrepreneurs, really good buddies. And it's great that they came to Ireland because of Google, and now they're still living in Ireland because they enjoy living there. They've got roots, and they're part of the community. But this next wave of companies are very, very recent. Dropbox, HubSpot, Engineer, Zendesk, LogMeIn, Etsy, Tengen, SumUp. They actually came from Germany. They're beginning to come into Ireland. And every week you're reading about a new company coming in. And they're only opening up maybe with 20, 30 people. The reason they're coming at that stage is not for taxes, it's for the talent pool. For example, HubSpot can go and they can try and get 10 people from Marketo. They can try and get 10 people from Salesforce, 10 people from Google. They can begin to recruit and accelerate their international operations very, very fast. So that's an overview, I think, of the ecosystem over the last 10 years, fueled by foreign direct investment, bringing in the multinationals, creating that outer, wider ecosystem, and then the last few years, Irish entrepreneurs and the community really begin to flourish, and American Silicon Valley VC-backed companies who've now had their second, third, or fourth company coming to Ireland with the help of the IDA and the tax benefits and so forth. They know how to do it, it works, it's easy, and we're also the only English-speaking country in the whole of the Eurozone. So that's massive if you're looking at back office. We're all on the euro, whereas the UK, they're on sterling, so you've automatically got two currencies. We speak English, or we try to speak English, so it makes it easier. And culturally as well, we're very aligned with the US. There's a big Abercrombie store up there somewhere, and we have Starbucks now and everything, so we're really cool now. So I won't dwell on this slide, but this is showing other work that's happening in other communities. 9 out of 10 big pharmaceutical companies now in Ireland. Medical devices companies are in Ireland. Some of the biggest financial services companies are in Ireland. So there's other clusters in other entrepreneurial sections as well, clustering all around the Dublin area and the other regions in Ireland. I think the key as an entrepreneur, as a founder, I lived in the States for the last 4 or 5 years, and I moved to Ireland to start my company. My co-founder moved from Australia to join me. My head of development moved from New York. He's Canadian, to join us. Our head of testing moved from London to join us. They all moved to Dublin. It was a great place to move to. It was easy. Guys, you want to come to Dublin? Yeah, sure, sounds great. 2 years in Dublin, what can I lose? Yeah, there'll be a few drinks. I'm 2 hours from a flight from Berlin, from Barcelona. I can see Europe. It's got a really good quality of life, and there's 1 or 2 pubs there as well. But also, what's beginning to happen is begin to export this belief. And there's 2 or 3 examples I'll just touch on here. One is, I've called it here Paddy, which is a good whiskey brand. But Paddy Cosgrave, who started this conference called Founders and Web Summit, only 3 years ago he started it. It's now the biggest tech conference in Europe, and they're expanding the Web Summit to New York and to London, and they're doing 100 summits, pub summits and start summits over the next year all around the world. This guy lives about 300 yards from my house. I bump into him 3 or 4 times a week. He's a pest. He's great fun. But you can see he's bringing in more elements of the community. He's bringing in people like Bono, just dropping in on these events. And that just adds to the fun of being in Dublin. Jack Dorsey was over, and there's rumors that Twitter opened their office after him having a weekend in Ireland at Founders Conference. So come to Dublin, good fun. Here's something that I think is actually amazing. It's impacting every ecosystem all over the world. This guy is James Welton. He's 20 years of age. He gave up going to college to start Coder Dojo. Coder Dojo is a free club for kids teaching them how to code on Saturdays. 3 hours, kids from the age of 7 to the age of 17. Started 2 years ago in my hometown in Cork. Amazing guy. There's now 6,000 kids every Saturday learning how to code from the ages of 7 to 17. There's 120 dojos all around the world. There's 40 in Ireland. There's a few here in Silicon Valley. They're sprouting up everywhere. James is traveling the world setting this up. And what's amazing is the kids, the confidence they have. After their first session, they have created either a game or an app, and they're leaving, and they've built, and it's like being on a startup weekend, every weekend of your teenage and childhood years, from ages 7 to 17. And we're already seeing founders coming out of Coder Dojo. There's a guy, Harry Moran, 12 years of age, top of the App Store in Ireland for 3-4 weeks, built a game, making loads of money, front page of the newspapers, 12 years of age, and all his buddies are now trying to beat the 11-year-old who beats him at the top of the App Store. And that's going to be amazing, because they're the founders, they're the bosses, they're the investors of the next generation. And this is exploding in Ireland, but great news for everyone. This is a global movement, and it's happening all over the world. And then finally, as I said, our story, we came back to Ireland as well to tap into that ecosystem. Enterprise Ireland helped us with incubators. It was so easy to set up the business, get going, to attract in the team. My name's Conor Murphy, so that's the Murphy's drink there, is the alternative to Guinness in Ireland and where I come from. We got, from a Silicon Valley ambition level, we definitely have a $1 billion market we're going after, and that's recognized when we can bring in investors like Ron Conway and DFJ into our round. We've just raised just under $5 million. And amazingly, someone like Ron Conway received investment when he was starting out from what is now one of Ireland's leading entrepreneurs. So back in Dublin, there's an Irish guy who invested in Ron Conway, who helped Ron Conway become the success he is. And we were able to tap into that by not going to Disney World, but by walking down the street about 500 yards and having a chat with Bill, who had a chat with Ron and helped bring him into our round. And finally, I'm here this week in the States because we're now coming full circle into the US. In the last few weeks, we've just hired 3 people. We're opening offices in New York, we're opening here in San Francisco, and we're hoping to hire another 20 people by the end of the year here in the States. So here we are in Dublin, coming straight over back to Silicon Valley, and to close that loop and to tie up the ecosystems. And we see Silicon Valley as a key area of our growth over the next while. So finally, I opened with Disney World. I'm going to close with Disney World. When I was a kid dreaming of going to Disney World, and I'm sure a lot of us were, and getting to that magical kingdom, turns out this is where the Disney family were dreaming of going. This is their castle in the west of Ireland, in the West Cork, where they would go when they were leaving the madness of the Magic Kingdom. They would come to Ireland, and they would spend a few weeks having a few pints of Guinness and getting to know the local ecosystem. And I think that's a great thing to remember. It's a very small world. DataHug makes the world even smaller. But there's everywhere is exotic to everyone, so there's no reason you can't have a really vibrant ecosystem wherever you are and tap into the other ecosystems that are growing around the world. So thank you very much. My name's Conor Murphy. My company is DataHug. If you're ever coming to Dublin, let us know. Hit me on Twitter. I'll show you the real ecosystem, which I haven't been able to talk about here. Thank you very much.